Across the top of your screen, of course, you'll find a variety of menus, and you'll find lots of options specific to Dreamweaver. And like other programs, many of the things that are in the panels, the property inspector, and the dialog boxes are also available from the menus. So if you're having trouble finding something, sometimes it's easier to find it in a menu than it is to remember exactly the dialog you had seen it in or the panel. Under the window menu option, you will find access to most of the panels, and we'll be using various panels throughout this series. For example, if I come down here to the Behaviors panel, notice that it opens in the right side of the screen. And in Part 2, we'll be using the behaviors to add some really cool interactive effects like rollover images and the swap image effect. But you can open and close any of these panels under this Windows menu. So if I just select Behaviors again, the Behaviors panel will close. The other thing you'll find under the menu, and I want to leave you with these options, are the preference settings. If you're on a PC, you'll find this under the Edit menu when you choose Preferences. If you're on a Mac, it's under the Dreamweaver menu. And here you'll find many preference options for Dreamweaver, and they range from general options, like you'll find in many other programs, to things a little more obscure, like whether you should use strong and EM instead of B and I, and that's for bold and italics. This is the kind of thing that may not make sense to you at first, and certainly if you're not very familiar with HTML, but over the years and the evolution of HTML, most of us have come to prefer strong and emphasis over bold and italic because it gives your user more control over how things that you want to emphasize are displayed on the page. For the most part, you should be able to leave all of these preference settings in Dreamweaver's defaults. But as you start to get more familiar with the features in this program, you may want to start making some choices about how some of these options are set. For example, you may want to change the color coding that's used when you do programming, or you may want to change the copy and paste options and the default setting for how you copy and paste text from other programs. One setting I will show you is the File Types and Editors option. This is where you can specify what editor will be launched when you double-click on something in Dreamweaver. So right now, if I were to double-click on an image with a .png extension, meaning it's in the PNG file format, it would automatically launch Adobe Photoshop Elements. But I could change that to be Fireworks by simply choosing the plus sign to add an editor, finding the editor that I want on my hard drive. In this case, I want Fireworks, so I simply select Fireworks, choose Open, and now you see Fireworks and Photoshop are both listed here when I have the PNG file selected. With both of those options selected, I can choose Make Primary, and now I've specified that if I double-click on a PNG file in Dreamweaver, Fireworks should launch instead of Photoshop. You can make those kinds of preference setting options for every kind of file format you might want to use in Dreamweaver, and you can even add additional extensions if there are formats that are not included in this list. Okay. That should give you a pretty good overview of the kinds of options you have in terms of the interface of the program, customizing the way Dreamweaver looks, and where you'll find some of the more common features. The more you work with Dreamweaver, the more you're likely to appreciate these customization options. And even if you don't change them right away, I encourage you to remember that these are options and that you can always come back and change these settings later. To round out this lesson, I'm going to switch over to the PC computer now, to a machine using Windows XP, so that you can see some of the interface differences on the PC as they relate to these kinds of settings. Throughout the rest of this lesson, I'll switch back and forth between Mac and PC. So let me go ahead and close out of Dreamweaver before we switch computers. So using Apple Q to quit Dreamweaver. And now, thanks to the magic of video, I'll transform my Macintosh into a PC.